Listening to English conversations is one of the best ways to improve our language skills. Every time we hear real-life dialogues, we pick up new vocabulary and get a better sense of how the language is used naturally in everyday situations. In today's episode, we're talking about loneliness. What causes it, how it feels, and how real connection can help us heal. Claire and Adam share honest thoughts and stories in this emotional English conversation. Let's start.
Hey Adam, it's been a while, hasn't it?
It really has. I think the last time we saw each other was during that winter gathering, almost a year ago.
Yeah, so much has happened since then. Honestly, it's good to see a familiar face.
Same here. I've been thinking a lot lately about how strange this past year has felt. Not just because of work or the world, just internally. There's been this odd feeling I can't quite shake.
You mean loneliness?
Exactly. And not the kind that comes from being alone, like spending a night by yourself. This is deeper, like being surrounded by people, yet feeling completely disconnected.
I know that feeling all too well. It's like you're present physically, but mentally and emotionally, you're somewhere else, floating. I've experienced that more than I'd like to admit.
When did it hit you the hardest?
Honestly, right after I moved to the city, I had imagined it would be exciting, new people, endless things to do, but instead, I found myself feeling invisible. I was in a crowd every day, but no one really saw me. And the worst part, I started to wonder if I even existed in a meaningful way.
That's so relatable. For me, it started during the pandemic, but it stayed long after life returned to normal. I had people to talk to, online meetings, even phone calls, but it didn't fill the emotional void.
Because real connection isn't about constant communication. It's about feeling seen, heard, and understood. And digital interactions rarely provide that. It's like eating fast food when what you really need is a home-cooked meal.
Well put. There's this assumption that loneliness only happens when someone is physically isolated, but I think emotional loneliness is even more painful.
Absolutely. You can live with a partner, have friends, go to work, and still feel incredibly alone. That kind of loneliness feels like being out of sync with the world around you.
Have you ever tried explaining that to someone? Like, I feel lonely, and they respond, but you have so many friends.
All the time. And it makes you feel guilty, like you're ungrateful or overly dramatic. But loneliness isn't about numbers. It's about depth and resonance. Are the connections in your life feeding your soul or just filling time?
Yes, that's the difference. I think that's why so many people suffer silently. They think their feelings are invalid because from the outside, it seems like they should be fine.
Exactly. And I think it's also because we don't talk about it enough. Loneliness still carries a sort of stigma, like admitting it means you're weak or broken.
When in reality, it's one of the most common human experiences. Everyone feels it at some point, but we pretend like it's rare or shameful.
Maybe that's where it all begins, the silence, the inability or unwillingness to say out loud, I feel lonely. It festers in the dark, and before you know it, it shapes your days, your thoughts, even how you see yourself.
That's powerful. You know, Sometimes I feel like loneliness isn't just a feeling, it becomes an identity. Like, you start to think, maybe I'm just someone who can't connect. Maybe I'm wired this way.
I've been there too. There were nights I'd stare at the ceiling and wonder, what was wrong with me? Why does everyone else seem so connected, so full of life, while I feel like I'm watching from behind glass?
I think a lot of people feel like they're on the outside looking in. We scroll through perfect pictures on social media, watch people laugh in cafes, and wonder why we don't feel that spark ourselves.
And the irony is, many of those same people we're watching might be feeling the exact same way.
Exactly. It's like a silent epidemic, and no one wants to go first and say, hey, I feel disconnected too.
But conversations like this help. Being open, even if it's just with one person, starts to dissolve the weight.
I agree. Honestly, I feel lighter just talking to you about it. It makes me realize that I'm not crazy or broken. I'm just human.
You're definitely not alone, Adam. I think we need more of these talks, not just late night thoughts with ourselves, but real moments of honesty with others.
Do you think loneliness can ever be useful?
Hmm, interesting question. Maybe. I think, like any emotion, it's trying to tell us something. Maybe it's a signal that we're craving something deeper, more meaningful, that we need to change something, whether it's our environment, our relationships, or even our relationship with ourselves.
Yeah, that makes sense. Sometimes it's a wake-up call, not a punishment.
Exactly. It's painful, but it can push us to grow, to reach out, to rebuild.
Well, I'm glad I reached out to you today. I didn't expect to have this kind of talk, but I really needed it.
Me too. Sometimes just being real for a little while makes a huge difference.
So, what do you think really causes loneliness? I mean, beyond the obvious stuff like being single or living alone.
That's a good question. I think one of the biggest causes is disconnection, not just from people, but from ourselves too. Sometimes, even when we're around others, we're not truly present.
Exactly. It's like we wear masks all day, showing what people expect to see. After a while, even we forget who we are underneath.
Yes, and I think modern life feeds that disconnection. We're constantly busy, running from one task to another, checking our phones every few seconds, measuring our value by how productive we are. There's no time to sit with our thoughts.
It's funny, isn't it? We've never been more connected, texting, video calls, social media, and yet real human connection feels rarer than ever.
That's the paradox of our time. Technology gives us access to people, but not necessarily access to connection. Scrolling through someone's life doesn't mean you're part of it.
True. And sometimes it even makes you feel worse, like you're watching a highlight reel of everyone else's joy while sitting in your own silence.
Comparison is brutal. It tricks us into thinking we're behind or lacking something, but it's not real. We compare our worst days to someone's filtered moment.
Yeah, social media makes loneliness worse, not better. It creates this illusion of belonging, but it's shallow. You can get 100 likes and still feel completely empty.
And there's another layer to it, emotional safety. Many people don't feel safe opening up because they fear judgment or being misunderstood. That fear keeps us silent.
I used to be like that. I thought being strong meant handling everything alone. I didn't want to burden anyone with my sadness.
But isolation isn't strength. Real strength is vulnerability, allowing others to see us as we are, not as we pretend to be.
Absolutely. But vulnerability takes courage, and a lot of people are scared of being hurt, especially if they've experienced rejection before.
Trauma plays a huge role. Childhood neglect, toxic relationships, bullying, they can all plant the seed of loneliness. You grow up thinking, I don't belong, or no one really cares. And that belief follows you everywhere.
It becomes part of your inner voice. Even when people do care, you question it.
Right. And on top of that, we live in a world that glorifies independence to the extreme, like needing people is seen as weak or clingy.
That's so true. But the truth is, we're wired for connection. Biologically, emotionally, mentally. Human beings are social creatures.
Exactly. Loneliness doesn't just affect our emotions, it literally changes the brain.
Studies show that chronic loneliness can increase stress hormones, weaken the immune system, and even shorten lifespan.
I read once that loneliness is as harmful as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. That really shocked me.
Yeah, that stat gets mentioned a lot, and for good reason. It highlights how serious the issue is. But because it's invisible, people often dismiss it.
I think mental health in general is still not taken as seriously as physical health, and loneliness often gets brushed off as something you just get over.
It's not that simple. Loneliness isn't a mood, it's a condition. It's like hunger, but for connection, and ignoring it only makes it grow.
That's powerful. Hunger for connection. I like that. It puts into words something I felt but couldn't articulate.
And just like hunger, the longer it goes unfulfilled, the more desperate and painful it becomes. That's when people start to feel numb, anxious, or depressed.
Sometimes it even turns into physical symptoms headaches, fatigue, chest tightness. I had no idea they were connected until I started therapy.
Therapy helped me too. It gave me a space to talk without fear, to unpack the loneliness without shame.
We really need to normalize that. Talking to someone, getting help. Just like you go to a doctor when you're sick, it's okay to see a therapist when your mind needs care.
Absolutely. And you know what else helps? Slowing down, making time for real conversations like this. They're rare, but they matter.
I agree. We're always rushing, multitasking, distracted. No wonder we feel isolated. We never fully show up for each other.
Presence is everything. Being truly there, even for a short moment, can be more healing than hours of distracted company.
You know, I think loneliness also makes us more compassionate. Once you've felt it deeply, you become more attuned to others who might be silently struggling.
That's a beautiful way to look at it. Loneliness can either close you off or open your heart wider. It depends on how you respond to it.
Exactly. And I think our response is what defines the experience. We can let it consume us, or we can use it as fuel to seek real connection.
Connection starts with courage, the courage to reach out, to say, I'm lonely without fear of judgment. That's how healing begins.
Like right now?
Exactly like right now.
So, if loneliness is something we all go through, how do we actually start healing from it?
I think it starts with acknowledgement. You can't fix what you don't name. When we admit to ourselves, I feel lonely, without guilt or denial, it opens the door to change.
That's true. I used to distract myself constantly. TV, work, scrolling, anything to avoid sitting with the emptiness.
Same. But healing doesn't happen through distraction. It happens through awareness. You sit with it, feel it, and ask, why do I feel this way? What am I missing?
And once you identify the gap, you can start figuring out how to fill it in a healthy way.
Exactly. For some, it means reaching out and deepening friendships. For others, it's reconnecting with themselves, rediscovering passions, practicing self-compassion.
Do you remember a time when you felt you were finally healing?
Yeah. It was when I stopped expecting one person or one solution to fix the loneliness. I realized I needed a web of connection, not just romantic or social, but also spiritual, creative, even connection with nature.
That's a great way to put it, a web. I always thought I needed one best friend or partner to complete me, but loneliness shrank when I started building small, meaningful ties in different areas of life.
Yes, a walk with a neighbor, a real chat with a coworker, volunteering, joining a book club, each of those adds a strength to the web. It's not about how deep each connection is. It's about feeling part of something.
Sometimes I feel people underestimate the power of small moments. We chase deep intimacy, but forget the quiet power of simple kindness.
Absolutely. A smile from a stranger, a shared laugh, a thoughtful message, those things remind us that we belong in the human story.
You know what really helped me?
Limiting time on social media, I didn't realize how much it was feeding my sense of isolation until I took breaks from it.
Same here. Once I unplugged, I had more mental space. I started writing again, calling people instead of just liking their posts, and most importantly, I felt more in control of my emotions.
It's crazy how something that was designed to connect us can make us feel so disconnected.
It all comes down to intention. Social media isn't evil, it's how we use it. Are we using it to connect or to compare?
That's a hard one, but yeah, intention matters. I started using it more mindfully, joining communities that feel supportive rather than perfect.
And setting boundaries, like no phone during meals or before bed. That alone helped me sleep better and feel more present.
What else helped you feel less lonely?
Honestly, gratitude. I started a small habit, writing down 3 things I was grateful for every day. At first, it felt forced, but after a while, I started noticing more beauty around me.
Gratitude rewires your brain, right? I heard it activates the same areas linked to dopamine and positive emotions.
Exactly. And it shifts your focus. Instead of thinking about what you lack, you notice what you already have, however small.
I tried journaling too. I didn't write long essays, just thoughts, questions, feelings. It helped me hear myself more clearly.
That's so powerful. I think a big part of loneliness comes from not feeling heard, even by ourselves.
Yes, when you start truly listening to yourself, your needs, your longings, you begin to treat yourself like someone who matters.
And that builds self-trust. When you trust yourself, you stop needing constant validation from others to feel okay.
Which brings us back to real connection. It's easier to connect with others when you're not starving for their approval.
Right. You approach people with openness instead of desperation, and that creates more genuine relationships.
It's kind of beautiful, isn't it? How healing loneliness doesn't mean fixing yourself, it means reconnecting with life, with meaning, with others.
Yes, and recognizing that we're all in this together. Everyone you meet is carrying something you can't see. That awareness softens you.
Empathy. That's what I've gained from all this. More empathy for others and for myself.
Same. I stopped expecting perfection from others or myself. Now, I just seek realness.
So, if someone listening to us were struggling with loneliness, what would you tell them?
I'd say you're not broken. You're not alone. And you don't have to carry this silently. Reach out, even if it's just one person. Speak honestly. You'd be surprised how many people are waiting for someone to go first.
I'd add be kind to yourself. Healing isn't instant. It's slow, gentle work, but every small step matters.
And don't underestimate your worth. You deserve connection. You deserve to be seen and loved as you are.
Beautifully said. Honestly, I think this might be one of the most important conversations I've had in a long time.
Me too. And I hope it's just the beginning of more real talks, deeper friendships, and kinder days ahead.
To connection in all its forms.
To connection. Cheers, Adam.
Cheers, Claire.
And now, that's the end of this episode. We hope you found it helpful and inspiring. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you never miss an episode. See you next time.